My friends, here it is, the Gary Numan interview that we've all been waiting so long for. Now, I was meant to conduct this interview in person, as you know, but due to COVID-19 and the logistical nightmare which arose because of COVID-19, we had no choice but to conduct this interview via Zoom. Gary Numan's schedule was very, very full, obviously, because of the promotion of his new Intruder album, so that meant I was only allocated an hour. But I made the most of it, and here is part one of that interview. Hi guys, and welcome to Piano and Keyboard Artist, where we discuss the artists related to pianos, keyboards, and synthesizers. And today my special guest is someone who needs no introduction. A pioneer, an iconic artist, one of the most influential artists of our generation, Mr. Gary Numan. Gary, how are you, sir?
I'm all right, thank you. I'm all right. It's busy, very, very busy, but it's good.
Yeah, Gary, listen, I know it's very busy, and thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today. I know we wanted to do this in person, but because of COVID and situations beyond our control, it's going to have to be like this. I know you're very, very busy, so let's jump straight into where we are at the moment. You are just about to release Intruder, which I believe is your 19th studio album.
I think if you include the Chewy Army ones, I think it's 21. I actually don't know for sure. 21 or 22 is a lot. Yeah.
Yeah. How does that make you feel if someone says to you, you've released 21 albums? That's like one every 2 years if you consider you've been going for 40 years.
It makes you feel old. That makes you feel, but it's a lot of stuff, isn't it? You know, it sort of creeps up on you a little bit. This is what you do, and each new album comes along, and you put the same amount of effort and thought into it and care into it that you did before, and you don't really realize, how much work you're putting out, and until you do something like this and somebody says, oh, you've made 20 odd albums. Oh, really? Recently, I got an email a little while ago. They said, no, it's like 41 years or something since We Are Glass came out, or 42 or more since something else came out. That hits you quite a bit. That huge amount of time for things that you remember so clearly and feels almost not fresh, but recent. And it's like decades and decades ago.
So would you say a lot of it is a blur? Would you say that sort of middle period was kind of like a blur, but with the beginning and now being sort of like the clearest in your mind?
The middle bit is less clear because I'm less happy with it.
Yeah.
I sort of choose not to remember that bit. Okay. I think at the beginning, I was really happy with what I was doing. It felt very much like a hobby that had just turned into something else. And then I feel that I got corrupted a little bit, or frightened perhaps by the success when it came along, and then the decline of the career, which was fairly consistent for a while. It started to go bad and it just carried on going. That was pretty demoralizing, and that was difficult. When I think I reacted badly to that and started to listen to advice, and which is a terrible thing to do, lost my way quite badly. I think my songwriting really, really went downhill. So much of it went downhill, not just the songwriting. The whole my approach to having the visual side of what I do and how it relates and synchronizes with the music was always very important to me. And I sort of lost sight of that, and I just lost my way completely. And I think I deserved to have had the decline that I had. I don't feel I was unfairly treated or anything. I think I was my own worst enemy, but got through that, sorted myself out, and started to do much better work. And it's been, better ever since, and the career's done better ever since. So yeah, I look at the beginning, and I'm quite proud of it. And I look at everything from sort of 94 onwards, and I'm very, very proud of that. But there is that little dark spot in the middle where I pretend it never happened.
Well, Gary, there is that saying that goes, the comeback is always greater than the setback. And I just think your story is going to be a great one. I'm surprised, or maybe later on, because you're still going and still going strong. I think one day they're probably going to make a life story of Gary Numan, and it will be an interesting movie to watch. Have you thought of anyone you'd like to play the role?
Well, me.
Okay.
I'm still alive. I'll be in it.
No, I don't mean it in that way, God forbid. But also, listen, I just want to also to the guys and girls watching here. This is Gary Numan's latest book. It's Revolution Evolution. This is basically Gary Numan. It's an autobiography. His whole life from 1958. Oops, gave your birth date away. Sorry, mate. Up until 2020. Now, Gary, I did read your first book, which was Praying to the Aliens by Steve Mallins, and that was about from 1958 to about 1997. Now, this one, once again, covers 1958, but goes right up until 2020. And what I love about this book is it's just the honesty. And to those of you watching this, if you haven't got this yet, do yourself a favor and get this. What I love about this book, Gary, is the way it's written. It's just the way you speak. In fact, when I read this, I can hear your voice. You know, it's written in plain English, and it's very much like yourself. It's brutally honest. There are things in here that I'm like, oh my God. And this is one thing that I think the community have always found very endearing about you is your honesty, brutal honesty.
Well, the thing is, it's easy to be honest if you're not ashamed of the things that you've done. You know, I'm the first to put my hand up and acknowledge mistakes that I've made and things that I should have done better or when I behaved badly, because they're important. That's an important part of shaping what you become. You know, I think we are shaped almost entirely by the way we deal with difficult situations, adversity, setbacks, disappointments, whatever. They are the things that really bother you. We seem to take accomplishments and success and praise sort of in our stride. You know, we just kind of just drift along and, yeah, thanks very much. It doesn't really bother you that much. You know, it just makes you feel good. But a setback, a disappointment, something that is crushingly demoralizing to your ambitions and your career, that's when you need some kind of backbone, some sort of mental resilience. That's when you find out whether you're going to become an absolute dickhead or whether you're going to come out the other end of that still a decent human being, treating people with respect and still determined, whatever. You know, I do have one or two friends, I should say, one or two friends that were not like that. You know, that tried their careers and things didn't work out. And I just watched them become these bitter, twisted, no, that's too much, but, you know, just really, really bothered and crushed by it. And you know, become sort of shadows of what they used to be, and all just full of, you know, they see themselves as this hero that was missed somehow, you know. And I just kept saying to them, well, why don't you just do some more? Go and write some more songs, try again. Why would you give up? You know, I've been dropped by more record companies than most people even know existed. You know, just keep going. You know, if your demo being turned down on a particular day by a particular company could simply be that man had a row with his wife in the morning. Yeah. You just got him on a bad day. It's not an indictment of your lack of talent. You know, and that so many of them seem to feel that they've got something special to offer. You know, and therefore, if you don't see it, I've never had that. You know, I just accept the ups and downs of it. You know, I accept that there is a huge amount of luck involved. You know, getting to that right person at the right moment. That's not a controllable thing, and so that's why it's all in the book. You know, because I think luck plays a huge part of it, and it would be a mistake to think that every mistake was my fault, but I was there. And it would be a mistake to think that every success was entirely down to me, because it absolutely was not. You know, I've been very lucky at times. Throughout it all, I've tried to write, as you know, the best songs that I could. Haven't always done particularly well at that, but you know, I've always tried my best. But I think the story that I tell in the book has to include all of those mistakes and so on, or else it kind of makes no sense for how you become what you become. And I like what I've become. You know, I do. You know, I think I've ended up being a really balanced, nice person. You know, I've had this whole amazing life and all these things that have happened. And at the end of it, well, not the end of it, at this part of it, I hope, you know, I look in the mirror and I like what I am. You know, I don't think I'm an arsehole, and I'm not arrogant, and I don't think I'm special, but I really love what I do. And I'm really grateful to still be here doing it. And I'm really proud of what I'm doing, and I'm loving it. You know, I like the life that I'm having. And that is the story.
Well, that is a great story of taking responsibility for what, you know, this, you know, because obviously we talk about artists up and coming, and I coach up and coming artists as well. Not that I can help them, because, you know, you will be able to vouch that there are so many factors involved here. But Gary, one thing, and this is some advice for you could probably give to up and coming artists. What I think a lot of people don't realize is, if we look at people like you, we sort of look at you and we assume, and we know that you're naturally successful and you're a legend and all these things. But what people forget is how hard you've worked, all the struggles, all the disappointments, you know, and you have persevered through that.
Yeah, well, and again, that's in the book, because I wanted people to know that.
Yeah,
you know, I am. The previous album, I did a pledge music campaign.
Yeah.
And with this new one, I did a making music campaign, much the same thing, different company. And part of that was vanity. Part of it was, you know, it's a good way of doing a pre-sale. It's a nice way of getting the fans involved soon. But part of it was vanity. And the reason for that is, you know, I was aware that people would, you know, go to the store or Amazon, whatever, buy an album. It turns up, it's all shrink wrapped and lovely, you know, and they open it and they go, yeah, it's all right. Yeah. And I was thinking, you have no idea of what I went through for the last 2 or 3 years or more to make that.
Yeah.
You know, everything in there is painfully created. I don't just sit in my room for an hour and go, there you go.
Yeah.
You know, everything's brilliant. Everything's done. It's not like that. It's really difficult, and it's really stressful, and it's a long, long process. And most of it is difficult. You know, you have days where everything goes well and everything's great, but most of it is not like that. It's painstakingly inching forward, and your confidence is crumbling all the time. And it's an exercise in self-management in terms of sort of mental health when you're doing it, to try to keep your confidence. And you can feel yourself sliding down the hole of, you know, confidence oblivion. And this whole journey that every album is really, really hard. And I wanted them to know that, you know, I want you to know that I suffer for this. You know, none of this is easy. None of it is easy. You know, I might be able to write songs, but it is a difficult thing to do for a very long, you know, to do for your whole life and still keep coming up with quality and moving forward. It's not easy. And so the point of pledge music and making music afterwards was to let them see the whole process. See me. I've just come up with this idea. This is a little tune. Let's see where that goes. You know, and then with video updates and little reports, you follow the progress of that song, of all of the songs, from that to the layers, to the building it up, to Aid Fenton getting involved in it and all the genius that he brings to it. Then the lyrics and, you know, the different melodies that you try, why some things work, why they don't, why you get frustrated, you know, those days when you really are worried, you know, that you've run out of ideas and all that angst that you go through. I wanted them to see all that so that when they get the record, they'll appreciate me a bit more.
Yeah.
You put some work into that. And that they would be more invested in it. They would know what those lyrics were about. They would know why I searched for that particular line, why it was important to get it right. So as an experience of just listening to that music, they can listen to it with much greater knowledge and detail about why it became the album that it became. And I just thought that would be a great experience for them. And it helped with pre-sale. You know, helps with the chart position. So, you know, part tactical, part vanity, part just wanting to involve the fans in it a bit more, make them aware of what goes on.
I must say, Gary, this is something, you were one of the first artists. Well, I can't say this because I don't follow many artists. You are one of the artists I've been following for years, but you're one of the sort of earlier adopters of this kind of behind the scenes thing. And I think it does work well, as opposed to going, hey guys, here's the album. When you get people to pledge, they can feel. And what I love, because I'm one of your patron members as well, and I love those videos where you're kind of sitting at a piano and you're like, oh, I just wish I could play better. So by the time the albums come out, people have been gunning for you and they feel the sense of accomplishment. So I know exactly what you mean.
Good. I think in the future, I'm probably going to move the whole sort of making music idea across to Patreon. Actually,
Yeah.
I think that's probably a better home for it. But we'll see how that goes. But the idea of involving fans and letting them see not just that process. Actually, I think it can. I have people at rehearsals now. I've got friends in bands that were sort of horrified at the idea that you would let people in to see you stumbling along as you try to work the songs out. And I was just thinking, no, that's they'll appreciate that. They should be able to see what goes to, as much as I wanted them to see what goes to making an album, I would like them to be aware of what goes into getting a tour together. So when they get to the gig and it all starts and it looks so slick and everything's like perfect and every move works with the lights and all that, I want them to see what it was like when we first started and the work that goes in to get it to that slick level that you're ultimately put on stage. I think for fans, it's a really interesting thing. I think it makes me more human to them. And I think it creates a closer bond between us. And the older I get and the more I'm involved in music, I think that close bond is increasingly essential.
You're absolutely right. And your story is very inspiring because let's face it, everyone I talk to, you are well known for a guy who puts on one hell of a show. I mean, I dragged my fiance to see you at the Royal Albert Hall and the night before. And while she was sitting there, she was like looking at this. We were quite close to the stage. She was going, "How old is this guy?" And I went, "Oh, he's about 60." And she was like, "What?" So that's just a bit of honest compliment there. I've always said this about you, Gary. When you perform, with you, there's no going through the motions. You always perform like it's your last gig. There's always such intensity. No, you do, and it's and this is great. Or you tend to perform like someone you're hungry. Now, I want to bring this onto nostalgia now because I know you hate nostalgia. And if we look at a lot of the bands and the artists that started when you did back in, the late 70s, early 80s, a lot of those artists are not around anymore. The few that are around, 80% of them are just doing nostalgia. And when you go and watch a lot of those bands, I'm not going to mention any names, there is this kind of going through the motions thing. So, and the point I'm trying to make with this is, your albums have been getting they've been getting better. I mean, let's say we start with Sacrifice, thanks to Gemma helping put you on the straight and narrow and finding your way. But it was really when you released Pure in 2000 that people just went, oh, fuck. Okay, this guy has got to be taken seriously. Fast forward to Savage, you've raised the bar to a ridiculously high level, which we're going to talk about in Gig Talk when Aid comes on. But all I'm trying to say is a lot of these artists that started back when you did, they're going through nostalgia, and then those that are still writing, they'll be like, okay, here's one of our new songs. And then you're just like, oh, fuck off. Can you just please play the hits? Yeah, but it's not like that with you, because if we take songs like My Name is Ruin, Here in the Black, recent songs, I mean, don't take my word for it, obviously, just base it on audience reaction. When I was at the Royal Albert Hall and when you did My Name is Ruin, Here in the Black, I was just like, fucking hell, So there are not many artists that have been around as long as you have that are doing current music. They're kind of relying on their old catalog. So, sorry, here is the question now. Why is it, do you think, that you are beating them in, not that it's a competition, but how is it that you think, you're actually getting better and you're not running out of ideas? Long question, sorry.
Well, the not running out of ideas is just luck. I'm brimming over still. When I'm in the studio, I can churn out melodies, 2 a minute. I mean, I'm lucky in that I'm still got a head full of ideas. But I've always been very anti-nostalgia. I don't mean to put anybody down. I'm not doing that, but for me personally, I don't have any respect for people that live on past glories. One of the problems that I've had in my career, that it's been very difficult for me to not be forced into living on past glories. Cars and Our Friends Electric. I will go to a radio station. They play Cars when I get there. They'll let me talk about a new record, but they won't play it. And then they play Our Friends Electric when I leave.
I know, it's frustrating. Yeah.
It gives the impression that you're living a past glories, but that's not what I'm about. I am really, really excited about what's next. Always, at any point in my life, I'm interested in what's coming next. It makes my wife angry. She says I'm a glass half empty sort of person, because something great will happen and I go, oh, brilliant. Now what? Now what am I going to do next? And she said, why don't you just enjoy the moment? And I can't, because I'm just obsessed about what's coming and what I'm going to do next, and how can I make that better? What can I learn from this moment to make the next one better? So I don't see myself as glass half empty. It's just that half the glass has already walked on. Half the glass has moved.
That's good.
And that's the way I am. I'm sort of driven in that sense. And so I'm not interested in playing the hits of yesterday to keep the faithful happy. I'm on a journey. This is my life and this is my career, and I'm on a journey and I'm going somewhere. You can come with me or not. You can stay in 1979 if you want and just live with that. But don't expect me to be there with you. I'm fucking going that way, And I don't know what's out there. I don't know what's coming, but I'm excited about finding out, and I'm excited about what I can contribute to it. And if there's any way that I can shape what's coming, then I will do so. That's the journey that I'm on. So when I'm on stage doing my thing, there is only a small part of that which is a nod towards the past and legacy and keeping people happy. I accept that, and there is that small nod. So I'll do Cars, and I'll do Our Friends Electric, and I'll do one or two others maybe. But what I'm really looking forward to is doing the new songs. And maybe if I've got one underway that I've not even released yet, like with the last two, I started doing Intruder before it was out. I'll do that as well, because that's why I get up in the morning. That's why I take the next breath. It's about where you're going, and that's what's exciting about life. I think to wallow in the past, I think if I was like that, I think I'd look different. I'd have grey hair and more wrinkles, and I'd have a big belly. But I've got a very forward-looking attitude, and it keeps me vibrant, and it keeps me excited about life and getting up and just living.
Well, I think, to me, Gary, I think you are an optimist. That does sound like an optimist. And, you talk about, looking forward, and there is always this thing, talking about doing new material. There are, I suppose, those artists that I mentioned, I'm not going to mention the names, that started where you were. The ones that aren't doing nostalgia are still doing recent albums. But I know, or new albums, but I know what it's like when you get there and they're like, and here's a new song, and you can see the audience kind of going, the point I'm trying to make is, with your stuff, it's not like that. The new stuff is just as good, and if not better than a lot of the older stuff. Now, obviously, the longer you've been been around, the more songs come out, with the average concert being about 20 songs. What is the challenge to try and sort of fit everything in a show?
I used to feel pressured by it. I used to feel that it was difficult to find a set that kept everybody happy. And then I stopped caring. I just thought, fuck that.
That's the best way forward.
I'm just going to do what I want. I'll do Cars and Our Friends Electric because I know everybody wants it. So, all right, there's that. But the rest of it, I want to look down at that set list, and when I see what the next song is, I want to go, oh yeah, love this one. Every song, except for Cars and Our Friends Electric. Well, I'm all right with them as well. I'm
careful. Yeah. Didn't one of your fans tell you off because you were dissing Joe the waiter once?
Yeah, I got told off. Yeah, and I understand that. I was being silly. Yeah. I've got fans out there that have supported me and stuck up for me. Gone on demonstrations outside Radio 1, sticking up for the music that I make. And there's me, rubbish in my own music.
Well, your fans are so loyal, Gary, that they will stand up for you again. They'll stand up to you against you. If that makes any sense.
I do express. I was being somewhat ignorant when I was doing that, and I wasn't giving them the respect that they deserve. But I'm afraid that is how I feel. I just need to articulate it in a slightly more sensitive manner. I'm just I'm just interested in what's coming.
That's great, man. You sound like an optimist to me, and thank God for meeting Gemma, because we want to, as you say, it's in the book here. When that point came where you were like struggling and you were like, okay, I need to do this, and because you strike me as a very strong character, what you decide you're going to do, and for Gemma to kind of almost convince you, like, look, you have got to stop putting yourself in the background, because all your earlier records, you were kind of in the background, so Gemma really got you onto this path. And also another shout out, you mentioned a lot in the book, is your father, Tony. I mean, he obviously was your manager, but you actually go into more detail here of how much hell he went through, with that low period of yours.
I did I mention earlier that you brought some school reports over for me? I don't think I did I?
I don't know. No.
He came to see me a couple of days ago because my quarantine finished on Monday, and he'd found some diaries for a start. He had a diary that I'd written from 1979, the whole year. The most important year of my life probably, and I didn't realize I kept a diary, but it was all in there. Everything, got to number 1 today. Tick, just brilliant, absolutely brilliant. I didn't say, but he brought me my school reports, which were unquestionably awful, and because I got expelled from school and I was just a nightmare of trouble. And now I'm a parent, of course, with kids of my own, doing similar things. I'm struggling myself with that. So I had no idea what him and my mum went through when I was a kid, sort of going through school. And now I appreciate just how frightening and disturbing it must have been for them, and how much worry I must have poured on them. And yet, despite all of that, when I was eventually thrown out of school and now I'm going to be in music, they just got behind me as if I'd been an angel and just put everything into it and give me all the help I needed. Without any doubt whatsoever, none of this happens. None of this would have happened without that support. So I certainly appreciate other people who don't have that support from home, because it's just so much harder to get on the ladder with this, to get underway with some kind of momentum without having some sort of fairly substantial support. Financially, my dad would drive me to all the gigs. He'd be security, back in the punk days, and people were throwing bottles at me and all that. He was security. He should load the gear, bought the gear, bought the van to put in the gear. And he wasn't rich, he was only working class bloke. And I had no idea that he'd put his entire life savings into me. I just didn't. I just thought he was a great dad, but I didn't realize how far that went until much, much later. I owe him everything, and my mum.
Gary, one thing that's, which strikes me about you is family seems very important to you. And, unlike a lot of artists that are in, where there's scandal and stuff like this, if I think of your story, I think when you're a kid and you're kind of getting out there, it's like, go away, mom, go away, dad. You were so unashamed of not that you need to be ashamed, but most people want to kind of, oh, there's your dad kind of thing. There's your mom. But the fact that you even had your mom and your dad in your tour buses, even until recent times, the way you've, included Persia and, in your albums. So I think the family thing is something that's which makes you a very unusual rock star, I think, is the whole family thing. Have you ever thought of that?
Not really. I can't understand why somebody would sort of not want their dad there because they don't look cool.
Yeah.
Really? Are you that shallow?
Yeah.
Are you that empty? I love my dad. I owe everything to my dad. So of course I want him around, and now that's over, now it's my children, and I hope my children don't think that I'm uncool in the years to come, but they might. You never know.
Well, Gary, there was a moment I remember when I saw you at the Shepherd's Bush Empire. I think when it was Shepherd's Bush or Brixton Academy, I can't remember. For the Savage came out, and when Persia came on, she was only about this size, and we did laugh at you, not in a bad way, because you've got this menacing thing. But as soon as Persia came out, you just melted, and it was such a great moment. And what I loved about it, there was a moment, I think it may have been at the
Royal Albert Hall. You were doing your whole thing, and you walked up to her and you kind of went like this, and there was a moment she went like this, and it was kind of like, oh, Dad. I saw that. I was like, oh. I mean, how cool is her dad? But she still went, oh, Dad.
I used to do it. I did it on purpose.
Oh, there's Aid in the background. Yeah, he's keeping us on schedule. Listen, I'm going to put, let's jump right into this. Right, guys, so this is the end of this episode. The next one's going to be on Geek Talk, and we're going to get Aid Fenton in, and we're going to discuss Intruder. How time flies when you're having fun. So see you later on the next episode.